أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون الذي لا يدركه بعد الهمم ولا يناله غوص الفطن الذي ليس لصفته حد محدود ولا نعت موجود ولا وقت معدود ولا أجل محدود. أما بعد فقد قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم الرجال قوامون على النساء بما فضل الله بعضهم على بعض وبما أنفقوا من أموالهم فالصالحات قانتات حافظات للغيب بما حفظ الله واللاتي تخافون نشوزهن فعظوهن واهجروهن في المضاجع واضربوهن فإن أطعنكم فلا تبغوا عليهن سبيلا إن الله كان عليا كبيرا صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات اللهم صل على For the love of our beloved Prophet and his beloved progeny, a second loud salawat. Allahumma salli. For the hastening in the return of our beloved 12th Imam, a third final loud salawat. Allahumma salli. The topic that we'll be discussing tonight, inshallah, is titled Islamic masculinity. When you look in society today, you find there are two main models or forms of masculinity that are provided to our young men and to our adult men as well. The first of those forms is a form of masculinity that is extremely passive. This is that individual who doesn't really care about what's happening around him. He goes with the flow. He doesn't really have high aspirations in life. There isn't much discipline and structure in his life. He's not necessarily goal-oriented. If you asked him what he's looking for in life, he wouldn't have much of an answer for you. And you find this is the first of the forms of masculinity that is presented to our young men. On the other side of this spectrum, on another extreme, you find a different form of masculinity that is also presented to our young men, and that form of masculinity is the type that is extremely aggressive. It is extremely the type that exerts effort. It is completely goal-oriented, except within it, it also has a sense of following desires and fulfilling desires. These are manly desires that this person has. This type of red pill masculinity that you come across. And maybe the biggest manifestation of this all was this individual by the name of Andrew Tate. The rise and the fall of this character on social media and in the virtual world, I think fully represents this major gap that we find when it comes to this form of masculinity. You find a person like Andrew Tate is speaking of a form of masculinity that consists of certain values that we do in fact hear near and dear to our hearts. but at the same time speaks of a masculinity that speaks of values that goes completely against the values of Islam at the same time. And hence, this is a gap that needs to be filled and a topic that needs to be addressed. It was always a surprise for me that us, especially those of us following the school of thought of Ahlul Bayt, why would we need to speak of masculinity when we come from such a rich heritage of male role models as well as female role models? What need would there be for me to sit here on a night like this when you have someone like Ali Akbar to speak of Islamic masculinity? However, when you look into how our young men are coming up within our communities, you find that this is a serious gap and a serious topic to be addressed. Therefore, tonight we want to take some time to delve into this topic. What did the Ahl Bayt share with us in this regard? What type of values did their young men carry, and what lessons can we learn from them? And the last point I'll mention before we get into our topic is the following. Of those values that we mentioned tonight, brothers and sisters, there are many that a young man and a young woman both have to hold in common. When we call this topic Islamic masculinity, this is not to indicate that a young woman doesn't need many of these values that we will be going through. It is only because when there is a lack of these values in a young man, it presents itself so much more. And in my humble words, it is so much more off-putting when you find a young man doesn't carry the following values. Therefore, tonight is a topic for all of the brothers sitting here from one angle, because they have to work hard and I have to work hard to, inshallah, have these values. It is also a topic for all of our dear sisters, especially our younger sisters, who are looking forward to building a family and want to see what values does the young man that they're going to marry have to carry within himself to be a proper candidate to build a life with him. Therefore, tonight we'll delve into this topic by posing the following questions. Number one, what are the 7 elements that Islamically we can pinpoint are part of making a man from an Islamic perspective? Number 2, why should you as a Muslim youth, and in particular as a follower of the Ahlul Bayt, have high aspirations in life and not be pleased with smaller or shorter goals in life? Number 3, how is a man supposed to protect his family and be the rock for his family, the support for his family? And how can he do this if he himself does not have any form of emotional stability? Number 4, what have the Ahlul Bayt shared with us when it comes to the manners that you're supposed to carry as a young man? Number 5, what is the one element in a man that can fundamentally ruin his life and his future in the blink of an eye? And number 6, and finally, which of the companions of our beloved third Imam in the plains of Karbala manifested all of these beautiful characteristics? Tonight, inshallah, we'll delve into these 6 questions with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Let us begin from here, brothers and sisters. The importance of this topic begins because fundamentally within our communities and in the cultures that we are brought up in, typically when it comes to the female, the young woman, the mother in the house, the wife in the house, you find in our cultures there is a lot of guidance, there's a lot of scrutiny. Many families, when you enter into the household, you find this young woman, she has a number of rules and regulations already built into the household for her. You have to come at this time, you leave at this time, you can't just come with anybody, you can't just go with anybody, all of these rules and regulations. And I'm not one to speak against these rules and regulations, because that is fundamentally part of the role of any parent. Any parent who just gives his child a green light will eventually end up regretting this situation in one shape or form or another. Therefore, as long as it's moderate, this is a positive thing. The problem begins when you see the young man in the same household And you see many times this young man has zero rules and regulations. It's not even part of the culture of the household that if this young man comes and goes, there should be some rules and regulations. Naturally, it's going to be different compared to the young woman in the house because this one's a man, this one's a woman. It's not going to be exactly the same. But why is it we enter into some households, this young woman has 101 rules about what she can or cannot do? But then her brother has a green light to do as he wishes. And then, mashallah, if he washes one of the dishes, they say, look at my beta. Amazing. Did you see? I didn't even ask him. After dinner, he got up and he washed the dishes. This is a masterpiece now. Why? Because the standards when it comes to our young men has dropped so much within our families that this has now become the golden standard. If he goes out of his way even a little bit, now he's a golden child. This topic, brothers and sisters, has deep roots in our communities and within our cultures. This is the reason why it is important on a night like this and on the night of Ali Akbar to speak of this issue. Let us begin with the first of those values that is part of making a boy into a man. Number one, a man is fundamentally defined at the very first level by his understanding that he has to be willing to delay gratification in the pursuit of a goal. A man that is not goal-oriented, whatever that goal might be. Sometimes that goal has a religious aspect to it. Sometimes that goal has a business aspect to it. Sometimes that goal has a knowledge aspect to it. Whatever the goal might be. A man that is not goal-oriented is a dead man. He's not a lively man. You don't want that type of man. He has to understand that as he's living his life, he has to set goals for himself in life, number one. Number two, when there are distractions on the way, pleasures, whatever the case might be, he has to understand that he has to build the maturity to set aside the short-term gratification in the pursuit of a greater goal. He has to go out there, sweat, do things so that in the long term he walks away with something greater, whatever that greater thing might be. Sometimes it's his studies, sometimes it's his career, sometimes it's some sort of pride he wants to bring to his family, sometimes it's providing, as we will discuss. Whatever it is, you are the type of person that has to understand, I'm setting aside these distractions because I have a goal in mind. And when I set a goal for myself, that becomes my number one priority. This is extremely crucial. And as part of setting this goal for yourself, do not be that young man that has low aspirations in life. Sometimes you speak to young men, so what's your plan for life? Shaykh, for now we're doing well, yeah? For now things are going by and, I'm going to work this job just so I can pay the bills, I can get by. Pay the bills? Get by? You live in a land full of opportunities. What are you talking about? Pay the bill, get by. High aspirations. Whatever field you want to go into, the field doesn't matter. Whatever field you go into, if you are a follower of Ahl Bayt, you have to do it well. You have to do it in a compelling way. Why are you aiming so low? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted you amazing intellect. You know why I know this? Because you're number one when it comes to your gaming system with your friends, yes? That's why you have amazing intellect, by the way. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with so many things and then you're aiming down here. A man that isn't goal-oriented, what does he do with his life? He wastes his life. Sometimes I have the opportunity to spend time with our younger generation, yes? Shaykh, come sit. Now it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Come sit, Shaykh, it's okay. We're chilling. We're chilling, okay. Tomorrow we also have to live life. You know this, yeah? There's Fajr and then we have to go to work. We have responsibilities. There's things it's okay, Shaykh. No, it's fine. Nothing to worry about. This is number one. A young man has to be goal-oriented. He has to have high aspirations. Why high aspirations? I say this and I hope that our young men hear this message, because this is what resonated with me personally at a really young age. Brothers, you have to understand, you are a minority within a minority within a minority. You have a very unique place in society and in history. You're given this very unique role, and then we're walking around wasting our life. What is the minority within the minority within the minority? First of all, you're Muslim. That already puts you in maybe 5%, 10% of society, yes? Then within the scope of Islam, you are a follower of the Ahl Bayt. It's even smaller minority. Then within that scope as well, you're trying to practice your faith as well. Even smaller minority. How many of you are there within society? Ask yourself that question. I promise you, if you ask yourself that question, you won't be wasting your life so much. You'll be wasting time so much. You know why? Because you know there's very little of people like you. And you have a very important role to play. Every second that is going by, you are not the typical person in society. You are unique. And with that uniqueness comes a lot more responsibility. You know, some people, they only take the unique side of it. Yes, I am follower of Ahl Bayt. I am unique. Well, I hate to bring you the bad news. When you're unique, that means more responsibility. When you're special, that means what? More responsibility. You have to understand your place in society and then understand your place in history. For how many years your own parents, your own grandfathers, how many years was there that the Shi'i school of thought even had the opportunity to stand on its own 2 feet? You're special from this angle as well. And then you're sitting there and you want to live life like any other 20-year-old in society. No, that's for them. They don't have the sense of purpose that you have. They don't come from the heritage that you come from. They don't come from the belief that you come from. If he wants to waste his life, he can waste his life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not going to blame him because he doesn't come from the heritage that you come from. You come from a different heritage. You come from a different cloth, which means you have more responsibility. You take your life seriously. What did you do today? Oh no, Shaykh, today was the gaming day. So we put on the headsets, mashallah. And we went for 3 or 4 hours. Shaykh, just to, give off some steam, yes? Blow off some steam. 3-4 hours is blowing off steam nowadays, yes? High aspirations in life. Be goal-oriented. Go after those goals. Short-term pleasures that come your way. Of course you take breaks. I don't need to tell you you have to take breaks. You're already taking enough breaks, most of us. You take breaks. You are goal-oriented. You go after your goal. Number 1 fundamental element that makes a man is that he is goal-oriented. The younger he is, the more he's supposed to be goal-oriented. Some of us, we're putting in the effort that our 80-year-old retired uncle is putting into life. He's 80 years old. He's retired. This guy's 20. It's the same amount of effort. This is elements number 1. Aloud salawat, please. If I take this seriously and I set goals for myself and I begin achieving these goals, what happens to my life? You will build something that every young man is looking for, and that is what they call self-esteem. This is very important. Self-esteem, brothers and sisters, self-esteem doesn't come from your thick voice. Self-esteem doesn't also come from your tattoos. Self-esteem doesn't come from the type of drip you're wearing when you go home. It doesn't come from that whip you're driving. It doesn't come from the swag you have. It doesn't come from any of these things. You know where self-esteem comes from? Self-esteem comes from you making promises and goals and then slowly making your way towards that goal. That's self-esteem. This young man looks at himself, that other people can doubt me. I've set a goal for myself, and I have a reputation of keeping that promise to myself. The self-esteem that this builds is nothing. Now this one, he's worried still about, is his beard going to connect or not? That's not what's going to give you self-esteem. Set a goal for yourself in life. And if the goal is too big, start with smaller things. Build that confidence in yourself. This is how you build self-esteem in yourself. And then you can do big things in the future. Never look down on yourself and say, oh yes, there's other people, they do big things in life. Why not you? Why can't you be that one who does big things in life. You can be the one who can do big things in life. Start from smaller things, build that self-esteem. Number one, setting a goal, being focused on that goal. Number two, health and physical wellness. You don't have to come and be looking like a model. We don't need that. But you have to be very thoughtful about what you put in your body. It's a sad thing, brothers and sisters. Anywhere you go, these young men, they're smoking. I'm not a fan. Why? Why are you putting this in your body? This body of yours that is an amana from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're only going to get one of it for the next 80, 100 years, whatever the case might be. And now at the age of 20, you don't have the insight to plan for the next 60, 70 years. You know how much investment went into you? You know how much your parents had to go through just for you to get to this point? And now this physical body of yours that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you this health, now with my own two hands, I'm ruining it. Why? What's the necessity for this? Be thoughtful about what you do with your body. You only get one of it and it doesn't change anymore. And once it goes south, then you can't stop it anymore. This is element number two. A young man has to look after his physical wellness and his health. Elements number three, brothers and sisters. A young man needs to plan so that he knows in the future how is he going to be able to provide and protect. This verse of the Quran, verse 34 of Surah An-Nisa, Surah number 4, that says, "Ar-rijalu qawwamuna 'ala an-nisa." The men are qawwamun. This young man thinks this means he's always in charge. No, it doesn't mean you're always in charge. It means you're the maintainer. It means you're the one who's serving. It means you're the one who is preserving family. Responsibility, not privilege. Responsibility. You're that one who has to put himself through difficulty before other people go through difficulty. You're the one who's going to have to become the one that has to provide. You are going to become a resource for yourself at the first level, for your family at the second level, for your community at the third level. And when I say community, I mean beyond racial lines. Let me put it this way. You need to plan for your life in such a way that you become a resource. Why? Because I will tell you this without any shadow of a doubt. There's going to come a time in your life where Islam will need you. The cause of Islam is going to need you. Your talents, your skills, your resourcefulness. There's going to come a time, the cause of Ahl Bayt in particular is going to need you. You're going to have to be the one who uplifts other people. Those other people might be immediately within your family. They might be within your community. They might sometimes be on the other side of the world. They might be in Gaza. They might be in Kashmir. They might be anywhere in the world. Islam is going to need you. Plan for that day. Become a resourceful person. What type of skills are you building? What type of capabilities are you building? Some say, we have to prepare for the 12th Imam when he comes. That is also true. Even if the 12th Imam doesn't come in my lifetime. Aren't there Muslims who are severely in need today? Aren't there refugees that don't have lives, brothers and sisters? Why can't I become a resourceful person to bring that peace and tranquility to those who don't have what I have? Especially those of them who come from your own school of thought, who might otherwise be neglected by others. Why can't you become that person? Providing, protecting. This is part of your responsibility. This is element number 3. Moving on to element number 4. A loud salawat, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Element number 4, you are going to have to be the one who brings within himself braveness and protects his family from threats. When a threat comes, you're the one who has to deal with it. Now you're 20, they ask you to go up to the front desk and ask a question, you're not able to do it. That's a problem. There's going to come a time, there will come threats your way and your family's way. You have to be the one who is able to stand up and protect your family. But now here is where the discussion takes a turn, and one very important one that is. Why? Because in today's world, and alhamdulillah, the societies that we live in are safe societies generally speaking. The threat that comes your way is less physical, it is more mental and emotional. And because the threat is more mental and emotional, all of our young men have to learn to build emotional stability. You can't be that young man that one day he's so happy the world is super bright for him. 30 minutes later, he's at the bottom of the world is dark. One moment he's happy, he's cracking jokes, everything is wonderful. The next moment, he's dark and he's angry. Emotional stability, brothers and sisters. Stay in the middle. Something happens that's good for you, you become happy, but not too happy. Be mature. There's going to be tests. The Quran says some people are the type, when we give them good times, what do they say? لَيَقُولَنَّ ذَهَبَ السَّيِّئَاتُ عَنِّي. Oh, all the bad times are over. No, the bad times are not over. This is good time, bad times will come too. Celebrate this one, but bad times are going to come too. And then the Quran says there are those, when we give them a little bit of bad time, إِنَّهُ لَيَئُوسٌ كَفُورٌ. He's lost all of his hope, and the Quran says neither of these is what I want from you. I want you to be a little happy when good things happen, and you get a little sad when bad things happen. This is the emotional stability that you have. A man that doesn't have this emotional stability can never become the refuge of his family. He will become the burden to his family. The number of families we have in our communities, brothers and sisters, the family has to take care of the father. The family has to take care of the husband. Why? Because God forbid you tell him the wrong thing. God forbid he gets angry. God forbid you say the wrong thing in front of him. Oh, all hell breaks loose now. So now the children in the house have to walk on eggshells. The wife in the house has to walk on eggshells. Because God forbid he hears this. Who taught you this? What type of masculinity is this anyways? You want to become that rock for your family? Build emotional stability. And in order to do that, you have to learn from a young age to control your anger. Your anger is something that will only come to your benefit in very rare situations. It's there for a reason. God put it there for a reason. But you have to manage it from a young age. How often do we find young couples come when they're 17, 18, 24, 25? Yes, inshallah, they're getting married in the future. Yes? They come 6 months before the marriage, 2 months before the marriage. One scenario I had, it was the day before the nikah. Shaykh, we want to do marriage consultation. Marriage consultation, we want to do counseling. I want to learn what are the characteristics I have to build in myself to be prepared for marriage. You want to get ready for marriage 24 hours before your nikah? It's more like 24 years before your nikah you're supposed to start preparing. Controlling your anger for our brothers is something that starts from a young age. You don't want to become that young man who, the moment they say something wrong to him, all of a sudden he turns into the amazing Hulk. Starts tearing everything apart and, loses control of himself. No, hold your anger. This is why the narrations emphasize this so much. They said that anger that you swallow is the best thing that you have ever put aside. Take a look at the narration of the sixth Imam, Al-Imam As-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Muhammad. The narration said, وَمَا تَجَرَّعْتُ. I have never swallowed anything. Yes? Set down anything. Set aside anything. وَمَا تَجَرَّعْتُ جُرْعَةً أَحَبُّ إِلَيَّ. Anything better than the anger that I set aside. Why did the Quran or the Hadith use the terminology swallowing? Because it's difficult. Because when someone looks you in the eyes and says something that doesn't sit well with you, you can already feel within yourself what? Things are boiling up. And unless you learn in life to control that from a young age, this anger is one of those elements that can ruin the life of any young man in the blink of an eye. All it takes is for him to get angry, ram his car into something. All it takes is for him to get angry, pick up a knife and do something. Yes, these things happen. One community we had, they had gotten together because one of the youth had passed away. In the basketball court, they got into a fight. One of the youth went, grabbed his gun, came and shot another one. Why? Because he called a foul on me. Sounds very silly to us, but this is what anger does. Anger doesn't understand these things. That's why the narration said anger is a type of junoon. It's a type of insanity. Because you don't even know what you're doing. Now's the time to start working on it. You're 10, start controlling your anger. You're 12, you're 15, you're 17, start learning to control your anger. This is that thing that can ruin a whole life in a blink of an eye. Of those elements, brothers and sisters, you have to protect. That means having emotional stability. Let us move on to number 5, brothers and sisters. This one I'm not going to explain too much about, yes? All I'll say is one word, hygiene. I don't need to go into detail here, yes? Let us move on to number 6. Number 6, brothers and sisters, manners. Nothing makes you more attractive as a young man than having beautiful manners. That's why the first Imam, Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. In this short narration, in this beautiful narration, what did the Imam say? He said, La zinata kal adab. There's no ornament like adab. There's nothing you can bring onto yourself that makes you more beautiful, more appealing, makes your character so amazing than adab. Sometimes you see young men come into the gathering, the way he walks, the way he talks, the way he carries himself. Wasn't this how Ali Akbar was? You know, when Imam al-Hussein sent Ali Akbar to the battlefield, we'll talk about it in Masa'ib tonight, yes? What did he say? He said, Allahumma shahad, faqad baraza ilayhim ghulam. Now I'm sending this young man, ashbaha bi Rasulillah. He's the one who's the closest to the Prophet. Khalqan wa khulqan. He walks and talks and carries himself like the Prophet. Oh, so beautiful. Manners, brothers and sisters. Sulaiman ibn Mahran, narrator, companion of the 6th Imam, Al-Imam al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He says, I came, dakhaltu, upon the 6th Imam. وَعِنْدَهُ نَفَرٌ مِنَ الشِّيعَةِ, and there were from the Shia people who were present in his presence. He says, I came and I sat to listen what he is saying in that gathering. He said, مَعَاشِرَ الشِّيعَةِ, all the masses of the Shia. This is a message for everyone. Message for all of us. He said, مَعَاشِرَ الشِّيعَةِ كُونُوا لَنَا زَيْنًا. Be that ornament for us. This is the standard. This is the golden standard. The 6th Imam said, when you walk, when you talk, when you carry yourself, people have to come and say, wow, is that the Shi'i brother you were talking about? Is that the Ja'fari one? You said you have a friend who's Ja'fari. Is that him? The way he walks, the way he talks, the way he carries himself. He said, Kunu lana zayna, wa la takunu alayna shayna. Don't be the type who walks and talks and carries himself, and then people say, did you see? This is the Shi'i one, yeah? He's Shia. This is what they do. In the other narration, the 6th Imam said, when you don't do well, people point to us. They say, Hada adabu Ja'far. This is what their master teaches them. This is what they're worthy of. That adab that you carry. Then the Imam continued, and he said, one thing I don't want you to do is qabih al-qawl, foul language. I know in society, on social media, on TV shows, we are taught that the more foul your language, the more attractive your character becomes. I promise you that's not the case. The less foul language, the more appealing your character becomes. The more you think about what you say before you open your mouth, that is appealing. That is attractive, brothers and sisters. Manners. can take a person who's at a very low level and give him a lot of sharaf, can give him a lot of important significance. Of those elements is number 6, manners. And when those manners come into the picture, maybe more than any other time, is when you are dealing with the opposite gender. Lower your gaze. Put your head down. You're going to enter into a room. Don't just walk in. Say, Ya Allah, make sure everyone is in proper clothing, so on. Be considerate. The way you speak to the opposite gender is one of the most fundamental ways you show your adab. And unfortunately, we are being raised in a society where we're taught that you can speak to the opposite gender however you like and however you wish. No. Islam didn't say that. Islam said you show manners when you come and you go. Lower your gaze, speak in respectful terms and respectful manners. Be more respectful when it comes to the opposite gender than your own gender. Be extra respectful. It won't be enough. It'll never be too little. It'll never be too much. Be extra respectful. This goes a long way. This is part of your manners. And this brings us, brothers and sisters, to the final element that makes a man from the Islamic perspective. And that is his relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At the end of the day, as much as he puffs up his chest and as much as his voice is thick, if he doesn't have something to fall back on, he will crumble. You might have seen these podcasters who come out and they spread this red pill masculinity and this and that. The moment the pressure becomes too much, all of a sudden he's crying and he's yelling and he's screaming in the same podcast. Why? Because he's only relying on himself. No, you can't go at life on your own. You build that relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the strongest way for you to build that relationship is your 5 daily prayers. If you do your daily prayers well, it will change your life. Don't take my word for it. This is the promise of the Quran. The Quran said, Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. The Quran said it will forbid you. You might still end up committing certain things, yes? But the Quran said that voice inside of you will become so strong, it will constantly bother you when you come across haram. And guess what? The Quran said that those servants of mine that are special servants are those who fear me. And then the Quran explained who are those who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Quran said, وَنَهَا النَّفْسَ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ. Those servants, when they come across haram, their default position is, I don't want to engage in this sin. Does it mean they never engage in the sin? No, sometimes they do. Sometimes shaitan gets the best of them. Sometimes shaitan tricks them. But his default position is what? No, I don't want to do this. What gives you this disposition? Salat gives you this disposition. 5 times every day. If you do it and you do it well, it's the promise of the Quran. Don't take my word on it. The Quran said if you do it well, it will give you the best chance to revolutionize your life. All of these elements, brothers and sisters, you find in which companion of our beloved third Imam? You find it in Ali Akbar. Yes? If it's the salat, you see it in Ali Akbar. If you see the manners, you see it in Ali Akbar. Yes? If you see the goal-oriented and being brave and being the one who protects, that's why Hussein chose him. Maybe on the 7th night, on the 8th night, go and bring some water for these women and children, yes? And Ali Akbar went and brought back this water for these women and children. Whatever you speak of when it comes to masculinity, all of it boils down to this character that is Ali Akbar. You don't have to go look elsewhere. You don't have to look for other role models. When you have someone like him, when you mention his name, you get goosebumps. What greater role model than Ali Akbar? Allah. This character was so special for Hussein. And this is why when the moments came where Hussein had to give away Ali Akbar as a gift to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it broke the heart of Hussein like anything else. Sallallahu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Sallallahu alayka ya ibn Rasulillah. How painful is it for a father when he sees a young man, his own son, walking in front of him? This father has spent his whole life nurturing this child. This father has spent every living moment taking care of this child. And now the child has become the type of child that makes his father proud. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pinpoints that child and he says, Hussein, if you want to prove your love to me, I'm going to take Ali al-Akbar away from you. What type of pain did the heart of Hussein go through? Yes? You know why? Because every step Ali al-Akbar made him prouder and prouder and prouder. And the narration says, on the way to the plains of Karbala, Imam al-Hussein took that nap. And when he woke up, he said, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un 3 times. Ali al-Akbar came, my father, why are you doing istirja? He said, I saw a rider riding beside us and said, this caravan is only moving towards death. There's nothing else that's going to come out of this journey other than death. And Ali al-Akbar stood there in front of his father and he said, my father, alasna ala al-haq, are we not upon the truth? Aren't we on the right side of history? And his father said, yes, my son, we are on the right side of history. And Ali al-Akbar said, idhan la nubali, we don't care. It doesn't bother us that we will be killed on this path. But of course, Hussein was thinking in those moments what? Hussein was thinking in those moments, oh Ali, you may not care, but your old father is going to have to go through the musibah of losing his son. Maybe in those moments, Hussein was looking forward to the 10th of Muharram. He knows what's going to happen on the 10th of Muharram until that day finally came. And maybe before that, every time he sees Ali al-Akbar, he's thinking how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to test him with this son of his. The 10th of Muharram came around. The companions all went to the battlefield. They were all martyred. Then Hussein looks at his camp and doesn't find anyone else from the companions. All that is left is from the family of Hussein now. But of course, Hussein is the one to send his own child first and foremost. The narration says Ali al-Akbar began to make his way towards the tent of Hussein. I swear, the heart of Hussein must have skipped a beat in the middle of all of this when he saw Ali al-Akbar come, because he knew the difficulty of this test, yes? He knew how difficult this one was going to be. The narration says he came into the tent, he stood in front of his father, and he started to ask for permission. فَاسْتَأْذَنَ أَبَاهُ. You know, the narration says quickly Hussein gave him permission. Quickly Hussein told him, go Ali, go, don't do this to my heart. How can Hussein stand there and watch Ali al-Akbar in these moments? فَاسْتَأْذَنَ أَبَاهُ فَأَذِنَ لَهُ. Before Ali al-Akbar could even insist, Hussein said, Ali, go quickly. Don't even stand in front of me. What am I going to do with my heart if you're standing in front of me? But Ali al-Akbar, if you're going to go, my dear son, go before you head out. Go to the tent of these women and children. Say your final farewell to these women and children. Let them see you one final time, because when they see you, it brings a smile to their face. The narration says Ali al-Akbar began to make his way towards the tent. And these are the words from some of the maqatil, yes? The moment he entered into the tent, the narration says, فَأَحَتْنَا بِهِ. Everyone gathered around Ali al-Akbar. You know, when that father figure comes in somewhere, everybody gathers around him. Ali al-Akbar came into the tent. All of these women and children gathered around him. And then the narration says, فَتَعَلَّقْنَا بِأَطْرَافِهِ. Some of these children started to pull on the clothes of Ali. Our uncle Ali, where are you going? Why are you leaving us here in the plains of Karbala? Why would you leave us for captivity and isara? What can Ali al-Akbar say in these final moments? Imagine what he said to each of these children. Imagine how many times he embraced each of these children. Maybe he comes to kiss his brother Ali al-Asghar one more final time. Maybe if his mother's there, he speaks a couple words with his mother in those final moments. What did Zainab say to Ali al-Akbar in those moments? All we know is when Ali al-Akbar came out of this tent, huh? And he got on his horse, and in front of him, this ocean of an army, his old father came and stood at the front of the tent, at the entrance of the tent. And the maqatil say, فَأَرْخَى عَيْنَيْهِ وَبَكَى. His eyes filled up with tears, and the tears started to flow. Yes, the silent cry of a father is something else altogether. His tears continue to flow, and Ali Akbar is now preparing. And before he heads off, Hussein, the only thing he could do was raise his hands and complain to Allah and speak his pain to Allah. He said, Allahumma shahad, oh Allah, you bear witness. فَقَدْ بَرَزَ إِلَيْهِمْ غُلَامٌ. Now I'm sending Ali Akbar. Now I'm sending the young man. He's just like the Prophet. Oh Allah, every time we miss your Prophet, فَقَدْ اشْتَقْنَا إِلَى رَسُولِكَ نَظَرْنَا إِلَيْهِ. We used to look at Ali Akbar anytime we miss your Prophet. Oh Allah, look at what I'm sending now. And then Hussein called out to the other side, because the pain of the father is too much, yeah? He called out to the other side. He called out, he said, Ya Umar ibn Sa'ad, قَطَعَ اللَّهُ رَحِمَكَ كَمَا قَطَعْتَ رَحِمِي. May God put you through this pain that you are putting me through, because now the heart of Hussein is being ripped apart. And the narration says Ali Akbar made his way into the battlefield. His father watching from far away, Zainab watching from far away, the women and the children watching from far away. He goes into the battlefield. He fights bravely. He returned back to the tent. All of a sudden Hussein saw his son coming back. He said, Father, I have one more question for you. Ali, why have you come back in the middle of the battle? Go back to the battlefield. He said, Father, وَالثِّقْلُ الْحَدِيدِ أَجْهَدَنِي. Yes, the weight of this armor is killing me. It's too difficult for me to take this. And the heat of this day is killing me. فَهَلْ إِلَى شُرْبَةٍ مِّن مَّاءٍ مِّن سَبِيلٍ. Is there a little bit of water I can get my hands on? Ali didn't ask even for a glass of water. He asked min shurbatin, even a little bit of water so I can defend you better, my father. And Hussein embraced him and kissed Ali Akbar. He said, Ya Ali, go back to the battlefield, because very soon your Jad, your grandfather, will come and visit you. And he will take care of your thirst, and he will quench your thirst. Ali Akbar now returns back to the battlefield, and he fights bravely until that time came where he was struck, and he fell from the horse, and he said, Ya Abata, my father, come. And the narration said Hussein ran like a lion on that day. There were only moments in the 10th of Muharram where Hussein ran like never before. This was one of those moments. Hussein ran in the plains of Karbala, and then the narration says all we saw in those final moments was Hussein put his face on the face of Ali Akbar, and he kept saying this one line, Ya Ali, ala dunya ba'daka al'afa. I don't want this world after you. I don't want to be alive after you. The troops on the other side said, we saw. He kept speaking to Ali Akbar, and the lifeless body of Ali Akbar on the ground, maybe not even in one piece anymore. And then the narration says he called the others to come and take your brother Ali Akbar all the way back to the tents. And this was the last line of Hussein on that day. When they brought the body of Ali Akbar all the way back, he said this one line. He said, Amma ans, when it comes to you, فَقَدْ اسْتَرَحْتَ مِنْ هَمِّ الدُّنْيَا. Oh Ali, you went and now you are free from the difficulties of this world. وَبَقِيَ أَبُوكَ. But you left me behind. You left your old father behind with all of this pain, with all of this musibah. What am I supposed to do here with all of this pain and agony, Ya Ali? ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. Let us take our hearts on this night of Tasu'a and send our salams to our beloved third Imam. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. Say this line with me. This might be the final ashra that we go through, God forbid. Say this line with me. ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. Everyone. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاده الحسين وعلى أصحاب. One more time. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته.